Check, check. Okay, Hopefully live now from iRacing's virtual Knoxville Raceway, we welcome you to round number 8 of the Racecraft Outlaws Sprint Car Series. And after a good bit of technical difficulties to begin the night, I'm happy to be joining you here in the broadcast booth from Racecraft TV. I'm your host, Joshua Lee. It'll just be me for tonight's proceedings, but we're getting ready to go racing for what is set to be another exciting round of the Racecraft Outlaws Sprint Car Series, mainly because this will kick off a little bit of a schedule change as we've got about 2 minutes now remaining in qualifying. A schedule change on tap for the rest of the calendar, or I should say for the next 2 weeks of the calendar, and that is when we complete tonight here at Knoxville. Instead of going to what was previously Weedsport, we're now going to Charlotte in the dirt track at the Charlotte Motor Speedway, the home of the World of Outlaws World Finals, that it will now be home to the 9th round on the calendar. And that will be about 6 days before the World of Outlaws Car Quest Sprint Car Series makes its return to the Charlotte Motor Speedway as well on January 30th. Now, the 31st round will kick off after, of course, the conclusion of the Car Quest Auto Parts Sprint Car Series powered by iRacing, and we'll be going to the brand new Lincoln Speedway. Then from there, Kokomo, Lernerville, Limaland, and Lucas Oil Speedway to round out the calendar. 7 rounds still left, and a champion to be decided among a handful of drivers. And at the moment, that sits to be Josh Edmondson, Evan McFarland, and Matthew Lind, who are at the top of the board. Aiden Forster, after missing last round and missing this round as well, currently sits 4th and is not going to deviate much in the 852 points he's got. Dylan Baldwin, Sean Winkler, Eric Whitener, with Daniel Age, Ryan Hodge, and Paul Mikolajczyk rounding out the top 10 with not a lot of time remaining. Josh Edmondson is in the catbird seat to become the first ever champion of the Racecraft Outlaws Sprint Car Series. But so far tonight, this is where we are going to do business from. It is the sprint car capital of the world, and it is the Knoxville Raceway. This track just has so much history behind it, especially when it comes to the World of Outlaws and these 410 sprint cars. We're excited to do business here tonight and go racing from the virtual Knoxville Raceway. Just like that, after the technical issues we had to begin the night, we are getting ready to go racing for the evening heat race number 1, and the only heat race that we are going to see tonight after a good bit of drivers, 7 drivers to be exact, it looks like, that took time in qualifying. They'll all get ready to go racing here this evening, and we'll take a look at your starting grid. Unfortunately, no music to accompany it, with a little bit of audio technical issues, but I've got my mic working. Seems like we'll be able to hear the cars as well. That's all that really matters tonight. Dylan Baldwin, Ryan Hodge going to share the first row. Evan McFarland, Matthew Lind, Josh Edmondson, and Danny Aish going to round out the first 6 spots. And then a newcomer to the 410s, Trevor Teal, slowest in qualifying. He has told us to not really expect too much more out of him, and that's fair to say for the driver who's most of his time put into the off-road portion of iRacing. We'll see what he can do out here on the track, though, as we've got drivers taking to the starting grid, getting ready to go racing. That's Baldwin and Hodge. That will be on the front row, getting ready to go racing. And a lot of excitement is around the schedule change to put Charlotte and Lincoln now into the calendar, and to move Charlotte to pre-finale round of the World of Outlaws Car Quest Sprint Car Series powered by iRacing, and to give the World Championship competitors a little bit of practice on that track before they get going in their championship finale. And then Lincoln, which has quickly become a driver and fan favorite from being the most recent addition to the Dirt Oval track list on iRacing, and as the field gets set off and rolling for 2 pace laps around the virtual Knoxville Raceway. There's a lot of excitement around that one. And of course, going to 4 tracks, Kokomo, Lernerville, Limaland, and Lucas Oil for the first time this season and post calendar in the World of Outlaws Car Quest Sprint Car Series powered by iRacing. Maybe we'll see a couple of those World Championship drivers get back into the swing of things after that calendar is over and have some fun with us at 4 racetracks to finish out the calendar, and as we are on the road to crowning a first ever Racecraft Outlaws Sprint Car Series champion. But first, we've got to get through the sprint car capital of the world and get through the virtual Knoxville Raceway as we see the drivers take to the grid and take to the pace laps now. This track, of course, as they round their way through turns 1 and 2, is not massive by any means. It is, of course, still short in general track length, especially for ovals, but for dirt ovals, one of the longer ones and one of the faster ones. And we're excited to see what these drivers can do out here on the track as we get ready to go racing. The iRacing official pace truck gonna make its way into the safety of the pit lane. The green flag is out and we are racing from iRacing's virtual Knoxville Raceway, and already off to a great start. Dylan Baldwin is gonna grab that early lead as they continue to fight back into the turns 3 and 4 and back across the start finish line. Then it's gonna be well and ahead for Dylan Baldwin to get that early lead, but how about behind? Side by side battle between Trevor Teal and what was Matthew Lind, is I believe he might have caught the outside catch fence and just put himself down into P7, the final spot on the running order. But Evan McFarland and Ryan Hodge, 2 drivers that have gone head to head, 2 drivers that are teammates in the 04 and the 19 as they race their way off the final corner. And same thing with Baldwin up in front, 3 teammates in the top 3 spots. And here comes a challenge from Ryan Hodge onto Evan McFarland, the battle for second place. Remember, with 7 drivers advancing their way into the feature, we will not cut anybody. We will not have an LCQ. We will qualify everybody into tonight's feature race. And Dylan Baldwin is right now in the top spot to get that pole position for the feature. And how about these 3 very quick 410 sprint cars out at the front of this group? And we can move all the way to the back with Daniel Age and Matthew Lind, who are going side by side. They're in a heated battle now as they go racing and trying to get those spots. Of course, this is all just for a starting position in the feature. Matthew Lind gonna get that spot over Danny Age. Age moves down into P7, and this group at the front of the field cannot be any closer. Baldwin, McFarland, and Hodge fighting their way into turns 1 and 2 again. 3 to go. A little bit of a touch to that bottom apron from Dylan Baldwin. Remember, the apron here at Knoxville is just a bump in the dirt. It is pretty much a dirt platform down there. You cannot use that apron much to your advantage. It does get these cars very upset. We saw Baldwin touch it a little bit, but is able to stay clean and green at the front of the field. He gets loose on the inside again, however. That's going to open the door for Evan McFarland. What a block and what a spin! Into the wall, or into the apron goes Dylan Baldwin. Almost hits the wall, but McFarland is not going to get the heat win. It's going to be Ryan Hodge at the front of the field who's going to win heat 1 and is going to advance his way into tonight's feature to start on the pole. And what a sight at the front of the field to round out the first run of the evening here in the Racecraft Outlaws Sprint Car Series. Just how about that for those drivers at the front of the field? All teammates as well, but they all come crashing together there for just a moment as we take a look at your full finishing results. How about Ryan Hodge grabbing that win with Evan McFarland, Josh Edmondson, Trevor Teal, and Dylan Baldwin in the 67 is going to end up P5 at the end of that one. Matthew Lind and Danny Aish, who were fighting for those final 2 spots on the running order, they finished 6th and 7th respectively. But that battle between those teammates at the front was honestly something to behold, as we are racing from the National Sprint Car World, the capital of sprint car racing, and of course the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame and Museum right outside of turn 2 here at the Knoxville Raceway. Most recently, NASCAR, now Craftsman Truck Series, having a couple of stops here at Knoxville over the last couple of years, and that's provided some exciting action in the oval world. Of course, more recently in the virtual world, the eNASCAR Road to Pro qualifying iRacing series for 2021 came here to the Knoxville Raceway and had its opening round of the second half of that calendar when the 70 best started going head to head to try and get a spot into the Contender Series, and that was one of the crutch races, and that was the opening of the points reset to see who would compete in the eNASCAR Contender iRacing Series to finish out the 2021 calendar. And now we go racing in the Racecraft Outlaws Sprint Car Series, and warm-up completing in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Warm-up is done. It's time to go racing in the feature. Here from the Sprint Car capital of the world, this is Knoxville Raceway, and this is your starting grid for what is set to be the 8th feature race of the season, and 7 drivers will go head-to-head fighting for a spot in Racecraft Outlaws Sprint Car Series victory lane. Ryan Hodge, Evan McFarland, first and second. Josh Edmondson, Trevor Teal, third and fourth. Dylan Baldwin, Matthew Lind, fifth and sixth on the grid. And rounding out the field, it's Danny Aish, the Australian FMX rider, in the number 33, not starting 33rd, starting 7th on the grid. As we get ready to go racing, of course, a reminder that this feature race being 35 laps in distance, the drivers will get ready to go racing, and of course cautions off in the heat race. Not like we saw many issues, many spins, many wrecks really in that heat race. Coming in now to the feature, those cautions are on. Caution laps will not count towards the lap total, but we will see the yellow flag come out if it is needed. And out of turn 4 they go. Of course, 2 pace laps as we take a look from inside the stands here at the Knoxville Raceway. And Ryan Hodge, who starts on the pole here, he has been really on a roll when it comes to Racecraft Outlaws Sprint Car Series action and is climbing the points. Unfortunately, had to miss out on a couple of our races a couple of weeks ago, and he's been returning and getting back into the saddle again and racing here with us on Tuesday nights. And at this point, he is one of the favorites to continue to climb himself up the points ladder. But with Edmondson and McFarland breathing down his neck in the 04 and the 58, he's got a lot of work to do if he wants to walk away a Racecraft Outlaws Sprint Car Series champion. It's time to go green flag racing from Knoxville. We're underway as they race their way into turn number 1. It's Ryan Hodge out to an early lead. Edmondson's going to get that second spot from McFarland pretty easy. Side by side with McFarland and Teal. How about Trevor Teal, a newcomer to the 410s, just goes to the outside of Evan McFarland and powers past him in turns 3 and 4. Beautifully done by Trevor Teal, and Ryan Hodge fights his way into 3 and 4 and continues to extend that gap at the front. It's 6-10 separating the 19 and the 58 as Edmondson tries to chase him down with longtime friend and fellow driver Trevor Teal behind. Evan McFarland falls to 4th. He's got pressure out back from teammate Dylan Baldwin. Remember, Matthew Lind also back here in this group, but Baldwin has been quick all night. He led a majority of that heat race, and then unfortunately on the white flag lap makes contact with the 04 of Evan McFarland. They go fighting now for 4th on the grid as Josh Edmondson has caught up to Hodge. Hodge goes to the outside, Edmondson on the inside, side by side for the race lead as they race their way into 3 and 4. McFarland fighting from 4th, Teal in 3rd. He's now knocking on the door of this lead battle as Edmondson loses a bit of time, but Hodge now gets loose on the outside line, makes contact with the outside wall, and that is going to move Josh Edmondson into prime position to try and get that lead away. This battle for the race lead between the 58 and the 19, this could be huge for points for Edmondson. He comes into tonight leading the way in terms of points, but with not a huge gap over 2nd place. Here's the dive for the race lead. Here's the dive to try and get that first spot away. Back to turn 1. Edmondson looks for it again. Can he clear Hodge? No, he can't. He's not going to be clear. Now he will be into turns 3 and 4. Give Josh Edmondson the new race lead. But how about Hodge? Now he's going to look to the outside. Gets loose up there again. Trevor Teal trying to pounce back. And now Evan McFarland joining the Fran drivers at the front. You can put a blanket over the top 4 right now, all separated by less than 1 second on the track. How about Trevor Teal now trying to fight his way into second? He's going to get that spot as Ryan Hodge makes contact with the outside wall. He tried to run on the outside. It did not work. And with that, he goes out of the race. Contact between McFarland and Teal, and McFarland's around. He's going to make contact with Dylan Baldwin, and the yellow flag flies for the first time this evening. That was just the slightest bit of contact there between those two drivers, but it's enough to bring out the first yellow flag of the night. It was between newcomer to the Racecraft Outlaws Sprint Car Series and Trevor Teal and a longtime runner Evan McFarland, and that was some close contact, but I'm not sure really how that began or really how that came to be. It was side by side between these two. McFarland looks high. Teal goes to cover off the spot, and I wonder if that might have been a little bit of inexperience on Trevor Teal's part. Came back up a little bit on the racetrack, but Evan McFarland just too much momentum off of turn 4, not really able to do much in the avoidance category there, and that's what brings out the first yellow flag of the night, and slows everybody down, gives everybody an opportunity to have a collective exhale and get ready for what is honestly going to be the second 2/3 of this race. We're about 1/3 in, 11 laps down. We'll be going green onto lap 12 with no caution laps, of course, counting behind the official iRacing pace car, but an issue for Danny Aish as well. He towed himself back into the pit lane after what looked to be an incident on, I believe, lap number 8. Let's take a look and see if we can find out what happened to the Australian off of turn 4, and we got pinched on the outside by Dylan Baldwin, and once he got sucked into that outside wall, I don't think there was really much Aish could have done, and just rode it all the way through 1 and 2, clicked it on the back straightaway as well, and you can see the wheel damage and the wing damage from here, and he unfortunately had to pull it off, and that was race over for Danny Aish, unfortunately. There you can see that number 33 into the pit lane, but we're ready to go back to racing. Single file restart here in the feature with Josh Edmondson, Trevor Teal, Matthew Lind, Dylan Baldwin, and Evan McFarland, the top 5, and 5 drivers left racing on the racetrack. Edmondson looking to lead the restart over Trevor Teal. Of course, 2 drivers, longtime runners in off-road, virtual off-road racing series competition. They look to go to the back to the green flag. And as they go on to lap number 12 here, Teal looking for, honestly, what might be the best rookie start and finish that we have ever seen in the Racecraft Outlaws Sprint Car Series. That number 72 in second place right now, running some pretty stout lap times, and last time by ran faster than the 2 drivers behind him, Matthew Lind and Dylan Baldwin, as those 2 drivers go fighting into turns 3 and 4. Now we're starting to see the outside line come into play, and we see contact between McFarland and Baldwin. 2 teammates. Baldwin ends up on his side. He tows it back to the pit lane, and that is going to be a race done for Baldwin, as Evan McFarland went for a slider on a teammate there in turn 3 and ends up making contact, and that is what puts Dylan Baldwin into the pit lane, but does not bring out a yellow flag. It was Baldwin versus Lind off of turn 2 into turn 3. There's the slider from McFarland. It was the 67 of Baldwin also coming down a little bit, and that unfortunately is what led to that incident with Baldwin. I'm not sure if there's really anything else either of those drivers could have done in that scenario. Of course, with it being a slider from McFarland, was expecting that Baldwin would be a little bit further up the racetrack, and unfortunately Baldwin at the same time trying to cut down a little bit, run that inside line, and that's what led to the contact. Now, back to a battle for third place. This is Matthew Lind versus Evan McFarland. There's another slider from McFarland in 3 and 4. So we went for it again from Lind. That time working out a lot better than the first time because Lind stays on the outside line. He's able to hold that line on the outside, and McFarland, expecting him to do so, leaves plenty of room on that outside line. The 04 goes back to the inside again. They continue to try and fight their way for this spot. This is for third. Lind on the outside. McFarland now with proper holds on the inside, and Lind just loses connection for a moment and gives that spot up. That is going to be now a gap of 1 second, making about 8/10 between McFarland and Lind. And with a big network moment off of turn 4, that sends Lind back to 4th, and that will push Josh Edmondson and Trevor Teal to the top 2 spots, and not with a ton of time remaining either. Only about 3 minutes left on the clock, and about 12 laps now, or 13 laps remaining in this race. And out front, it's Josh Edmondson, and not more you could say about this number 58 driver. Of course, with Next Level Racing, Pimax VR, Apex Gaming PCs on that machine. He leads by 8 points over Evan McFarland, and at the end of the night, he's not going to gain too much back on McFarland, as it was an 8-point gap coming in. At the current moment, it's going to be a 12-point gap heading into Charlotte. Matthew Lind, of course, was the 3rd driver in the point standings. He's looking to finish in P4 right now with the gap that he's got. A lot of setting up for the last couple of rounds of this campaign. This finish for the championship points is going to be exciting, as we're going to see drivers punch their ticket over 1,000 points. And of course, with 1 feature race win for McFarland, still none for Edmondson, this is going to be a really, really important victory for that number 58, as once again, he has not won a feature race yet this season. This will be feature race number 1 that the 58 is going to win if he's able to hold on for 8 more laps. And right now, that is going to be crucial for him in the points. Is how about 2 feature race wins for Aiden Forster? Unfortunately, not able to show up to this round and the previous round. He stays stuck at 8:52. Dylan Baldwin is going to gain a couple more points back on Aiden Forster at 8:30. 22-point difference between those two. He's going to be able to gain back just a little bit, and I believe be able to overtake Forster for that 4th spot. Another feature race winner in Eric Whitner. He is currently 7th in points, 660. The only driver to have the same amount of feature race wins as previous points leader Aiden Forster at the moment is Ryan Hodge, who, like I mentioned, missed a good bit of starts at the beginning portion of this calendar, and even with those 2 wins, only sits at 430 points and in 9th place in the championship standings. And we're hearing that the 58 of Josh Edmondson might be having a little bit of a fuel scare. Remember, I believe it was either last week or the week prior, he did not fully fill up that fuel tank and ran out of fuel with 2 laps remaining in the race. We're at 3 to go now as he crosses the start-finish line, bites his way through 1 and 2, past the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame and Museum. It'll be 2 to go this time by for Edmondson in the 58. We mentioned it. No feature race wins yet this season. An average feature start of 4th and an average feature finish of 4th. He looks for race win number 1 here tonight. He works his way through turns 3 and 4 and looks for the white flag from Barney the Flagman. White flag is out in the feature, and with 1 lap to go, Teal is going to look for 2nd. McFarland's going to look for the final spot on the podium, but looking for feature race win number 1 and avoiding all the carnage that Knoxville brought. Josh Edmondson is victorious. He wins feature race number 1 of his Racecraft Outlaws career in the number 58, and Edmondson is gonna go to victory lane at legendary Knoxville. What a win for that number 58 camp. I know how hard he works, and just running out of fuel right as he got past the finish line. In typical race win fashion, he had just enough to get it done. Edmondson wins from Knoxville. Trevor Teal gets second place, Evan McFarland for third, Matthew Lynn for fourth, Dylan Baldwin going to round out the top 5 with Ryan Hodge and Danny Aish going to round out the 7 drivers that took the green flag tonight here in the feature. Expecting hopefully a couple more drivers that are going to join us at the virtual dirt track at Charlotte Motor Speedway. It will be the week before at the finale for the World of Outlaws Car Quest Auto Parts Sprint Car Series powered by iRacing. Gonna give some of our World Championship competitors a little bit more practice before they take to the track for their finale. But as we wait for our top 3 to work their way into the interview waiting room, and how about that, they're all ready to join us here on Racecraft TV. So we will begin with feature race winner in Josh Edmondson, and honestly, amazing fashion that he was able to get that feature race win. And we'll pull him now up into the broadcast booth. First time feature race winner on the season for you, Josh. And I know how hard you've been working at these sprint cars, really only really putting a lot of time in once the Racecraft Outlaws Sprint Car Series came into play. Not that you haven't been putting in time previously, but now you really get to sink your teeth into them like you had with the Rallycross machines and Racecraft Rallycross, and now that hard work pays off. You are a feature race winner. Congratulations. And unfortunately, it looks like we're still dealing with a little bit of those audio issues that we had to begin the evening. So, Josh, I'm going to let you go as we try and diagnose them. But once again, congratulations on that feature race win. And best of luck to you as we continue on into Charlotte, into the brand new Lincoln Speedway, and in the last 4 rounds of the calendar. Yeah, and unfortunately still dealing with some of those audio issues, as we had more technical issues before beginning the night, and it just looks like our audio not willing to cooperate with us here at the moment. I will try and get that fixed before we talk to Trevor Teal, see if there is any way that we can get his audio to cooperate with us as we continue to look at that. Now, we'll continue to preview what we've got on the horizon, which at this point is going to be a very, very exciting end to the calendar. Of course, with Charlotte Motor Speedway next, or the dirt track at Charlotte Motor Speedway, I should say, and continuing forward as we look to continue on the Racecraft Outlaws Sprint Car Series and finish out the inaugural season as well, which is we've been looking forward to crowning our champion, and looks like we're going to crown them in just about 6 weeks time in the month of March. We continue on through January. We continue on with an abbreviated schedule in February, trying to work a little bit around the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series calendar, and we might move a couple of dates around in order to be very proactive and not trying to stack competitions on one another and not trying to compete with the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. So we'll see if another schedule change does end up getting made, and unfortunately, it looks like audio not going to want to cooperate with us. So deepest apologies to all of you viewing at home, Josh Edmondson, Trevor Teal, and Evan McFarland, who didn't get to thank their sponsors here on Racecraft TV, didn't get to really tell us how they're feeling after their top 3 finishes. But we can assure you, ahead of next week, we will have these issues figured out. But with only 6 rounds remaining and with a schedule change, we're not going to Weed Sport next week. We're going to the dirt track at Charlotte Motor Speedway, home to the World Finals of dirt track racing. We're going to go head-to-head on January the 23rd. Same time, same place, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on Racecraft TV, and for the Racecraft Outlaws Sprint Car Series. For all of tonight's action here at Knoxville, congratulations to Josh Edmondson, Trevor Teal, and Evan McFarland on podium finishes. I've been your host, Joshua Lee. We thank you for tuning in to all of tonight's action, and we will see you in 1 week's time from iRacing's virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway. But for now, we're saying good night from virtual Knoxville.